We foresee an end coming. We keep talking about a 10-year plan, but the 10-year plan keeps continuing. It was 10 years last year. It's 10 years this year. So we have this vague ballpark view that the band cannot continue forever.
Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If you'd be so kind, would you mind introducing yourself?
What's up, everyone? I'm Matt McGachy, the vocalist of Cryptopsy, and I'm happy to be here with Adrian on Dreams of Consciousness.
And Matt, you have been on the podcast once before.
I have.
You have. That's right. We had a very nice chat upstairs from a venue called the Nile Gallery in Brooklyn, where our conversation was only occasionally interrupted by a little dog named Wednesday who was snoring.
And I don't remember this at all. It's crazy. I have a very good memory.
This would have been 2015. So you were on tour with Disgorge. I can't remember the other bands that were on the bill.
Oh, yes. Disgorge and Surreption and Arima and The Convalescence, I think. See, I'm pretty good. I do not. Oh, no, I remember that venue. That was a weird venue. That was like an art gallery.
That's right. That's right.
It was a strange venue then. Yeah. I remember doing my exercise that day in the parking lot, but I don't remember our chat. I'm sorry.
No worries. The only reason why I bring up the venue because it was, as you said, it was a very strange place to do an interview, and also, so listeners can go back and check out our conversation and hear about how you joined Cryptopsy and your thoughts on the first album that you did, which was The Unspoken King.
Hmm.
At the time that we had that conversation, you guys had an Indiegogo crowdfunding page.
For the Book of Suffering, Tome 1. Yes, so the Book of Suffering in general. Yes.
Exactly. And you guys had recently decided to self-fund and self-release your music.
Hmm.
Let's follow up on that. How did the Indiegogo campaign end up working out for you guys?
We did not reach our goal. It was not like Archspire right now. Archspire it did much better, is doing much better than we did back in the day. It was difficult. It was stressful. We still fulfilled everything that we said we were going to do, even though we didn't hit our goal. But even like if people were not supporting us or funding the Indiegogo at that point in time, we were still getting a lot of support in our Bandcamp at the same time. So people felt more comfortable just supporting us that way, and that definitely helped us fund the Book of Suffering Tome 1 and Tome 2 recording sessions and production of the CDs and getting it out there and shipping and merchandise. So it was extremely appreciative that the fan base supported us that way. It was not easy being independent. It was something that we tried, and I honestly am relieved to be back on a record label, even if, as Archspire pointed out, the record label tends to take the majority of the funds up until a recoup, as Dean explained very clearly in that video that he dropped about a few weeks ago. It's not easy being independent. You have to wear a lot of hats. You have to hire the right people, which costs money. An extremely we tried, but internally within the band there was a lot of discussions about returning to a label, probably mid Tome 2 tour cycle. There was a lot of discussions of coming back onto a label and not handling everything ourselves and using the label's knowledge of how to survive in a primarily digital world nowadays when releasing music, which is something that was completely out of our wheelhouse. It's very different than just like putting out a record, shipping out CDs. That's something that we can handle, but the whole streaming side of it and getting the algorithm to bite into our new releases was something that we did not understand. And you saw that because when we toured for As Gomorrah Burns, or when I did press for As Gomorrah Burns, a lot of people had no idea that we dropped music after the self-titled. So sort of the Book of Suffering two tomes sort of were just a blip into nothingness, sadly. So we're very happy to now be on Season to Miss and have the tomes being available again for everyone. There's vinyls, there's CDs. They're up on the playlists again, getting pushed hard because Season to Miss knows what they're doing.
So you mentioned a few of the challenges that you had as an independent band who was crowdsourcing and handling everything yourselves. One thing that you touched on that I think seems to me to be one of the hardest things is the fulfillment side. Cryptopsy has this international audience. When it comes to fulfilling orders and things like that, were you handling that yourselves?
No, we had a wonderful friend of ours that handled all of our Bandcamp. I think he actually still does, but we don't sell very much stuff on Bandcamp at the exact moment. Our merch is primarily through Indie Merch and Empiricon right now in Europe. We did not have to do that, but we did have to like produce the merch and get it to him. And shipping is expensive for people. We live in Canada and shipping out of Canada is very expensive. So that was another big hurdle that some people would just look at the shipping costs and immediately be like, well, I'm not going to buy this. But they would download it and support it that way. It was not easy. The shipping part was not the problem. It was more so the whole behind the scenes streaming aspect, trying to get onto playlists, trying to get the press that we needed. We hired a PR team, but it's not as powerful and impactful as a PR team that a record label has.
Interesting. So I think I mentioned at the time, but if I didn't, I'll say it again. I think what you guys did was extremely admirable and brave. And I know a number of DIY bands. I myself was in a DIY band once upon a time. But I think once you get to the level of a Cryptopsy, international tours, international orders, multiple media outlets, I think it becomes a lot for a band to handle. Would you say that's a fair take?
It's a lot. I'm excited to see, absolutely, and I'm excited to see how Archspire handles the volume that they're going to get. I'm sure that they're going to do well because they are, from what I've seen, I know them, I've spoken to them a few times. They are brilliant. Dean is very intelligent, so I know that they're going to handle it gracefully. It was not easy, but we did it. It's in our past right now. We will probably never go back to being independent unless a million things change. We just don't have the time to do it.
Right. Are you glad you went through that experience though?
I am glad that we went through that experience. It gave us time to really solidify ourselves as the current Cryptopsy lineup. Dropping two EPs the way we did allowed Christian Donaldson, primarily our guitarist producer, the time to gain the confidence that he needed to write for Cryptopsy without feeling like a John Levasseur imposter. He shook off those cobwebs on tome one. On tome two, he was a little bit more confident. And then as we were writing As Gomorrah Burns, he became comfortable and is in his rightful place and seat. He considers the band his band now, as opposed to before it was always Flo's project that he was helping out being a part of. So those years being independent granted us the time to grow as individuals and as musicians and as a band together.
What was the biggest lesson that you took away from self-releasing those two EPs?
I think just a lot of I guess all the skills that I learned handling all the online stuff, because I was handling Bandcamp and me and my wife built our website back in the day. I say me and my wife, but my wife did most of the work. It was actually our idea, me and my wife's idea, to go independent. We had to sell it to the band. All of those skills I've just taken and put it into my bag of like email correspondences, staying on top of stuff, not letting things slip through the cracks is something that I've applied or did apply to my podcast, Vox and Hops, which I ran for 7 years. And then all of those skills just amplified throughout the podcast, the connectivity, the getting to know people, the massive, beautiful inbox that I have where I can just type in any band name and I have a PR person's contact. Um,
I'm familiar.
It's cool. It's cool. Sometimes I discover a band. It happened to me like last year or 2 years ago where I was like, the Callous Dow Boys. I'm like, I like this band. Let me just see if I have a PR contact. And I did. And now I'm friends with Carson, the singer. And then all of those skills I've applied to the band now because me, Flo, and Chris and Ollie, as much as, we're back on a label, we have a management, but we run the band ourselves mostly.
What advice would you give to a band, I guess at any level, or maybe if you want to take that a band at the level of Cryptopsy, who wants to try what you guys did and self-release and crowdfund their releases?
You gotta get all your ducks in the row way in advance. You have to create fulfillable objects or like items that you're going to be selling or packages, excuse me, that you're going to be selling to your fans has to be realistic and fulfillable within a reasonable time frame. You have to hire a very, very good publicist. It's extremely important nowadays to get in the faces of people. It's because social media, everything moves so quickly. If you're not being thrown at people from every direction a few weeks before your release, no one's going to know that it's happening. So I think that's very important. Probably one of the highest, most important things is that create a good product, obviously, work hard on your music, and just stay true to yourself and create music that resonates with yourself and you hope resonates with your fans.
So we didn't get too in depth about how Cryptopsy writes songs the last time I spoke to you. You did speak just now about Christian's contributions. Is that mainly how songs start for you guys? Does it start with Christian coming up with riffs?
It starts with riffs. It starts with riffs, and he's a genius, okay? He's a very annoying genius that
Okay, so I need you to follow up on that. Why is he an annoying genius?
because he's an ultra hater. He hates everything. He is the biggest cryptopsy hater on the planet. Anytime any comment comes up in a YouTube video or any new releases that we put out, Chris has already thought it. So he protects us and protects himself by writing what we try to do haterless riffs and stuff. So Chris is a music savant. I see him like that. He's got a perfect pitch. He studied music. He is a musician. He's a born musician. So he writes riffs in strange ways, such as on the previous record, his father was passing away right before we left on tour, and he went to go visit his father in the hospital. And he wrote a riff based upon the rhythmical pattern that one of the life support machines was making.
Wow.
Chris is like that. He was emptying his dishwasher and he hit two wine glasses together of different sizes and they created two pitches. He wrote riffs around that. He's written riffs from air conditioners making weird sounds. And he comes up with these riffs and he hums them into his phone all the time. He has like this bank of voice memos of riffs. So when it comes time to write, which for this record, An Insatiable Violence, we wrote on the road because we put ourselves in a strict timeline of wanting to drop a record within 2 years of As Gomorrah Burns, which meant we had to write on tour. So we wrote while moving in a tour bus, in a bandwagon. We wrote in hotel rooms. So it typically always starts with Chris pulling out his phone, listening to some riffs, and he's like, oh yeah, this is a good one. And we start tracking. And then from there, everyone chimes in, Flo chimes in, Ollie chimes in. And I sit back and I just sort of let them do their thing and I yell riffs if they're not writing. It's true.
So Chris comes up with riffs. Do he and Flo work on the arrangements together? Is Flo very
Exactly.
okay?
That's exactly. Flow is hands-on with creating the traps. Cryptopsy has a lot of traps where you think the song is going to go in a certain direction and then it flips it on its head. Cryptopsy, we call those traps. So that comes from a conversation, a relationship between Chris and Flo. And that typically happens after the first few writing sessions. So we wrote on Death to All, we wrote on the Carnifex tour. We wrote a lot on the Carnifex tour because we had like 5 days off and we would get hotel rooms and we would, while Carnifex and all the other bands were rest, we were in our hotel room writing An Insatiable Violence. So after that tour ended, they got together a few more times at Chris's studio and they hashed out the structures of the songs a bit more firmly.
Do Christian and Flo use a DAW to assist with their songwriting and their arranging?
Yeah, they write. We always write it. We write into Pro Tools. Yeah,
Okay.
there was a lot of argument. That was like a big part of those 10 years of independence was the argument between Flo and Chris of how they were going to write. Because Flo is very old school. He likes to write in a jam room. He likes to sit there and work through things, whereas Chris is very new school and he writes sitting at a computer. So that was this give and take that they had to. Finally, Chris won the argument, and we write at the computer. And it works because you can come up with a bunch of crazy ideas right away, and then you have them written down and recorded right away. But then on the opposite side of things, when it comes to tracking it, Flo would come in with bass ideas because Cryptopsy, there's like certain tempos that we mess around with. We know that certain tempos require certain drum beats. We call those drum beats, as example, the two-pack beat, a grind, a blast. And then from there, that's like the base structure of where Flo has to be. But from there, in the studio, he'll come in with like very loose ideas, and it's a lot of happy accidents that happen in the studio. And then when it comes time to perform songs live after recording them, he has to go back and relearn what he did.
So it sounds like for this most recent album, you were present for the riff writing and the arranging.
Some of the arranging, mostly the riff writing, I was around. As Gomorrah Burns, I was there for a part of it, a majority of it, because we had rented a cabin in the woods and we were there for 5 weeks, and then the pandemic kicked off, and then we had to do everything a little bit more separate. But I was there a lot more than previous writing sessions, I would say that, yes.
In the past, would you mostly hear the songs once the arrangements were complete or near complete?
Yeah, typically like Flo and Chris would get together with Ollie, obviously too. Ollie comes up with riffs too, obviously, and I would just get files by the end of it, and I trust them. They're not here sitting with me over my shoulder while I'm writing lyrics. We each have our jobs. I trust them completely. As I mentioned, he's a genius. There was no one like telling Van Gogh what to do,
Right.
and that's how I consider Chris and the relationship that him and Flo have.
So at the time we're having this conversation, Cryptopsy's ninth studio album, An Insatiable Violence, will be released through Season of Mist at the end of the week.
Correct.
We touched on this a little bit about how this album came together. In terms of purpose or intention, what was the feeling of the band? Why did you want to get an album done soon after your previous one was released?
Well, Flo turned 50 last year. This is a big part of it. Is Flo turned 50 last year, and
Tell him I'm on my way.
I will.
I'll see him there.
I view Flo as an Olympic athlete. Okay, so his playing is so intense and extreme and physical. And sadly, there comes a time in every Olympic athlete's life and career that they can no longer perform in the Olympics. We foresee an end coming. We keep talking about a 10-year plan, but the 10-year plan keeps continuing. It was 10 years last year. It's 10 years this year. So we have this vague ballpark view that the band cannot continue forever because what he does is just so physical. I don't know if you watch like wrestling, but those last Ric Flair matches, that's not going to happen with Cryptopsy. We don't want to be up there and be sad and old and not up to our full potentials. So we do, however, have a lot more creativity that we want to give. And the band is so cohesively tight right now. The four of us are so on the same page about the where the band needs to go, how the band needs to grow. And in order to grow and to continue giving stuff to the fans and have a creative output for the band, we have to release new albums. We've watched a lot of our friends achieve great success by following this pattern of dropping an album every 2 years consistently over a period of time. Aborted, cattle decapitation, and we wanted to attempt to mimic that. So every 2 years, we plan to drop new material, high quality material, which means that even today, I was on the phone with Chris, pressuring him to keep writing for the next record, not An Insatiable Violence, the next one. And I was like, if you felt pressure after As Gomorrah Burns, I bet you feel even more pressure now because it's the week before the release. And most of the reviews that we've been receiving from the PR team at Seasons are quite favorable. So the pressure for the next one is even heavier. So we're just going to keep pushing, keep creating. I already have a lyrical concept for the next record, which is reassuring for me because I love to write lyrics underneath the umbrella of a concept. It helps frame my crazy mind and really be able to harness and focus in on a specific topic, which is interesting, somewhat educational for the masses, and creative at the same time. So that's where we're headed. That's what's going to happen. We pushed ourselves. It was not easy to write a Cryptopsy record and release it within 21 months of the last one. But we did it. And how did we do it? We put the work in. And it was not easy. It was not comfortable. We would have loved to sit in those hotel rooms and do nothing on those tour dates, but on the days off on the tour, but we did not. We put the work in. And here we are 2, 3 days before the release. And we're grateful and excited and just can't wait for everyone to hear it. We did a Bandcamp listening party yesterday and everyone was stoked on it. But if you're going to show up at a Bandcamp listening party, you're obviously a big fan.
Right. So you talked about wanting to have cohesive themes to the albums, to the lyrics that you write. Would you describe An Insatiable Violence as a concept album?
Oh, 100%. Yes. I had this crazy dream in August of 2023 about a person that's fixing a machine all day. And then at night, they strap themselves into this machine and the machine tortures them and they love it. And while it's torturing them and they loving it, they're looking and they're like analyzing the machine to see how they can make it even more pleasurable, more efficient, taking them right to the brink, but not killing them. And then they wake up the next day and they implement those changes. And I had the name of the album in my head. Originally, it was longer. It was An Insatiable Lust for Violence. Flo suggested that we just edit it down to An Insatiable Violence, which was a great idea. And we, the human race, are and the machine is our relationship with social media. And if you think about it in that metaphor type kind of way, all day long, every day, we craft this fallacy of an illusion of who we are that we present to the world on social media. And then when we post something, we sit back and we analyze the reactions, we analyze the impact, we look at the insights, we try to see the comments. Are they positive? Are they negative? And if there is something that's not quite working about the post, what do? We go back and we fix it, we tinker it. And the next time we make a post, we implement those changes, and then the cycle repeats. It's an insatiable violence. Humans' relationship with social media. It's extremely toxic. I am cripplingly addicted to my phone. I've written two albums about people's relationship with the internet and social media, and it is most definitely autobiographical, and it's about me. And so basically, that's like the overlying concept. And then I went through and discovered 8 topics, 7 topics in all reality, because Malicious Needs, the track is, I decided to write a song about my dream. So there's 7 topics, and the album concept topic, which fell into Malicious Needs, which talks about negative things that have happened to humans due to social media, the fear of missing out, the horrid experience. I'm so happy. I've been with my wife for over 20 years, and I'm eternally grateful that I am not having to deal with online dating, jealousy, catfishing, doing crazy things to get likes, daredevil, crazy climbing tall towers, falling to their death because they wanted to get that picture of those daredevils, mukbang. It's just, there's a whole, so many things that just child stars that are being taken advantage of by their parents for the sake of finances. Just, there's a whole bunch of horrible things that have happened. And I explored all those topics and creatively danced around them in like a creative writing experiment.
Yeah. It's interesting what you described in terms of your relationship with social media. The last time we spoke, something very similar had happened to you guys, which was the reaction to the artwork that you created for the EPs.
Oh yeah, they hated that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was really bad. Shout out to Eric Sanchez for not doing a good job, but it was not good. We laugh about it now. The internet was right on that one.
Okay. So the feedback is not always to your detriment.
The feedback is not always negative or horror. It's just it's hard to hear. It's hard to hear that you've done something and it's not good. It's a hard thing to hear, and it's a how we react to it is the most important aspect of that. And this goes back to the Unspoken King again. I'm not sure I said it back in the day, but the most detrimental thing that happened about the Unspoken King release was not the music, was not me being in the band and Lord Worm not being there anymore. It was the band's reaction to people not liking it. And that is the problem with the Unspoken King. We would have gotten away a lot. We would have had not have to rebuild our relationship with our fans for as long as we have over the past 15 years at this point and longer even. If we hadn't had such a knee-jerk reaction and been so volatile in our response. That is the big problem with the Unspoken King. How the band reacted to fans not appreciating what we released.
Interesting. I'd like to speak about the recording of the album. I believe since The Unspoken King, Christian has been handling most of the engineering.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes, 100%. Yes.
Yeah. All the way to the mastering?
Nowadays, yes. I feel like the self-titled. Oh, no, there is one thing. No, I'll correct myself. The self-titled was mastered by someone else. I think it was JF, who's an anonymous from here in Montreal, but I could be wrong. It could be Alan Douche. I can't remember. The Book of Suffering, Tome 1, was not mixed by Chris. It was mixed by Jason Sukoff. So Chris produced everything except for Tome One. Chris used that as a research business trip to learn some tricks from Sukov, and it was a cool experience for him. And Jason's amazing; he's super cool, super fun. We did not go and like track with him. Chris still tracked us. It's just Jason mixed it. I'm not sure if he mastered it. I cannot remember off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure since Tome Two, Chris has mixed and mastered everything.
Does Christian have his own studio, or do you guys track in your rehearsal space?
Oh no, Chris has his whole studio. He has an amazing drum room on the island of Montreal, and then Chris bought a house about 10 years ago, and he has a beautiful mixing room. And we go there and we track all the vocals and guitars and bass at Chris's house. So I go and live at Chris's house for like about a week when I track vocals, and I bring my kids and he has his kid and they play all day and we go to the beach in the summer. If not, they play in the snow. As Gomorrah was in the summer when I tracked, and An Insatiable was right before Christmas. The kids hang out, we eat supper together, we have breakfast together, and then we go down to the studio and then we track in his studio.
You described Chris as a hater in terms of his role as a songwriter. How would you describe his role as an engineer?
I think he's fantastic, and I believe that he is severely underappreciated. I'm with him a lot because we tour so much. And we hang out a lot on tour because we like to go to bars and, or just basically just get away from the venue together. And there's a lot of, there's a handful of producers in the States that keep getting all the gigs, and I don't understand why Chris doesn't get some of these gigs. He's a fantastic producer. He's produced everyone from Suffocation to Despised Icon to The Agonist, Cryptopsy, Beneath the Massacre, Beyond Creation, Ingested, Shadow of Intent. He's just done so much. And I wish more bands would go to him because he's fantastic. He has such a clean, crisp production with still holding on to the heaviness of the production as well. As a producer, when you like track with him, he pushes you really hard to get the best out of you because he knows. And he tells us that he's far more hard on us, Cryptopsy, than any other band because it's his band and he knows what we can accomplish.
So, a figure from Cryptopsy's past shows up on the album, on the song Embrace the Nihility.
Yes.
Do you want to say who that is and how he became involved?
Oh yeah, that was a joke. It started as a joke. The way that me and Chris track vocals is probably different in other bands because I don't write patterns. Chris writes my patterns. I show up with my lyrics, and me and Chris, I sit with him and he comes up with the patterns where my vocals should go. There's moments where he's like, you're missing two paragraphs, and I have to write on the spot. You're missing three syllables here to make it really musically impactful. So as we got to the end of Embrace the Nihility, he was like just joking around saying, and then it passes. He's like, do you think we could do that? And I was like, well, we could try. I'm like, well, let me write some words that like fit that pattern syllable wise. Let's keep on drowning is what I put in there. And it just worked. So I tracked the vocals originally. And then as we were sitting at night after the kids were sleeping, we were having a few beers, listening to what we had worked on that day. And he was like, do you think we could ask Mike DeSalvo to record this? And we have a great relationship with Mike. Ever since I had him on Vox and Hops, the first time like we met, I'm not sure if it was the first time we met. I think it might have been. We just kicked it off and we closed that bar that night. We had a great night. So we have a great relationship. So I just texted him. I was like, hey, Mike, blah, blah, blah. We're doing this thing. Would you be interested in being a part of it? And he was an immediate yes. We sent him the files. He sent it back. It was so easy. The legacy of Cryptopsy is super important to Cryptopsy, to us, this modern age of Cryptopsy. Nothing that we're doing now we would be doing anything without what was done before us. So honoring the legacy of Cryptopsy, including Mike DeSalvo on this new record, was an honor for us, and we're extremely happy that he was there. Even though it's just literally like 4 or 5 words, it was cool. And plus, it's funny we ripped off ourselves.
That's awesome.
There's a lot of Easter eggs on the record. There's like a massive Easter egg on each song that no one has picked up yet. So I'm excited to see once the album goes live to like the whole world on Friday to see if anyone could figure out this Easter egg because it's in every song. There's something that is not from this decade or the last decade that is on every song, and no one has figured it out yet. So I'm excited for someone to figure out what we did.
So we're coming up on, or I guess we're in the middle of festival season. I was lucky enough to see you guys play MDF last year when people like me.
Oh, yeah, that was crazy. That's the last time I saw Mike.
Oh, cool. Uh, Back when people like
Yeah,
me
yeah.
were still allowed into the country to see music festivals.
Oh.
What do you guys have planned this year?
We have no festival, sadly. We are going on tour with Nile, The Last 10 Seconds of Life, and Cognitive. That is kicking off, I believe it's on September 11th, and it is running all the way until October 12th, I want to say. Mostly the East Coast of the United States and up north in the United States, and then all the way across to Seattle and then back. With Nile, we've been wanting to team up with Nile. I've been wanting to team up with Nile for a long time, so I'm extremely excited about that. We have announced that we are going back to Japan in December. We have also announced that we're returning to Australia in December and also to New Zealand, and there will be more things announced around those dates shortly. We are excited to share the new album with everyone, to get out there to experience these songs live. We just finished a European tour with Decapitated, Warbringer, Incarnation, 34 dates across the UK, Scotland, and mainland Europe. And we were playing a new track, Until There's Nothing Left, on it, and it was going over splendidly. People were singing the words already back at me in the chorus and pitting just about every night on that throughout the whole thing, either right from the get-go or once that big chug part comes in the middle. So that's exciting. So we have a lot planned. We're basically planned about a year in advance right now, but I can't announce everything.
Okay. So you mentioned that you envision an end for Cryptopsy at some point. Is there anything that you still want to accomplish with this band? What do you hope to do before you put this to rest?
So many like little things. There's so many like just recently we're on the cover of Decibel. That was one. I was teasing our PR guy, Will, that I wanted the cover of Decibel a few months ago. And he was like, why? Why? Did Albert write you? Did you get an email? And I was like, no. I'm like, I'm messing with you. I was like, I'm just projecting. I'm putting things into the stars and hoping for something. He's like, oh, because I've asked him. And I was like, oh, cool. Okay, well, keep me posted. Good job, Will. Let's go. And then we got it, which was amazing. So that was one. That's a bucket list for sure, being on the cover of Decibel. I want to play main stage Whacken. That would be something. Another thing, like even not headline. That would be cool, but I would just be happy playing main stage Wacken. Another thing that I would love to do is here in Montreal, there are a few venues that I haven't played. Right now, a lot of the tours are coming through this new arena that was built just outside Montreal in Laval called Place Belle. I would love to play a show at Place Belle in my hometown where it's the biggest stage that you could be on in your hometown. I think that would be amazing. A few things like that. Those are probably the top bucket list things for myself, honestly.
What do you think the legacy of Cryptopsy will be? Or what do you think it should be? How would you want to be remembered?
Well, Cryptopsy itself, its legacy is already cemented in the first era of Cryptopsy. None So Vile, Blasphemy Made Flesh are iconic albums. We're constantly being compared to that. It is something that we will never escape. So they already have a legacy, that era of Cryptopsy. A lot of people also really appreciate the Mike DeSalvo era. For my era, what I want people to hold on to and my legacy would be my resilience, the fact that I never quit, the fact that even after recording a record, my debut record with Cryptopsy, and it not going across wonderfully, I stuck to it. I put the work in, and that I became a better death metal vocalist. It's not easy. A lot of other people would have quit, but I didn't. And I put the work in, and I became a better death metal vocalist. And I'm finally at the point where some people still don't like me. That's fine. Most people seem to appreciate what I'm doing on the new record and the recent record as well. And I'm proud of that. So that is a legacy that I would like to have hold on, is the fact that even if you trip, you publicly, embarrassingly, you can still get up and keep going. That's a legacy that I would like to, for myself, for the band. I would like to people to realize and look back on us in 20 years and realize that even after 30 years in their career, the band is still releasing relevant music, something that is interesting, something that's pushing the boundaries, even after 30 plus years. We're not resting on our laurels, just carbon copying None So Vile. We are still doing something different, something that excites us, and something that excites the fans.
So when we met, it was 10 years ago, and you were very candid and open about how you felt about The Unspoken King. I'm curious if your feelings have changed in the 10 years since.
I don't remember what I said. Did I say I liked it or I
I
didn't like
think
it?
my takeaway was you said that it should have been released as a side project. It should have been released as a different band.
I agree. Had we released it as The Unspoken King, it would have gotten a lot more positive reception. What I can say after the past 10 years, look at what happened over the past 10 years. Look at every death metal band, well, modern death metal band. They all have clean vocals.
Yeah,
We were the first. We just did it first and we did it weirdly. And our reaction was horrible. We shouldn't have reacted the way we did. I listened to it probably a year ago now, maybe 8 months ago. There's some parts that I enjoy, but it's not a great Cryptopsy record. It's weird. It's way too out there. There was way too many cooks in the kitchen. There was no cohesive person in charge of guarding the legacy. Right now, when we write, everything we do is to guard and protect the legacy of Cryptopsy, and there will no longer be any missteps. Well, as much as we can control.
that's a great place to leave off. By the time people hear this episode, An Insatiable Violence will be out through Season of Mist. Matt, please tell everyone listening to this how they can order the new album. What's the best way to get it?
The best way to get our brand new record, Insatiable Violence, is from Seasons of Mist. Go and hit them up. I think it's seasonsofmist.com. There might be some hyphens in there. I can't quite remember. Google it. Season of Mist, and you will be able to grab a whole bunch of weird variants of the vinyl, the CD. They got some merch up there. That is the best way if you want to get your hands on a physical copy of An Insatiable Violence. The shipping rates are global and very, very modest, so don't worry about that. Merchandise wise, if you want to support the band by buying some merchandise, we have two primary merch stores in North America. We collaborate and always work with Indie Merch Store. They are wonderful and I love them very much. In Europe, we are recently working with Empiricon and I love them equally as much. Their quality is phenomenal. If you want to find us on social media, it's Cryptopsy Official. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram. We're trying to do what is this thing? TikTok. I'm so old. We're trying to do TikTok, but I don't understand it, and I'm trying. We'll get there. And come and see us at a show where we're coming on tour in the United States with Nile, The Last 10 Seconds of Life, and Cognitive in September through October. And if you're in Australia, New Zealand, or Japan, we're coming in December.
Very cool. We actually didn't speak too much about how you ended up with Season of Mist, the great people who put the two of us in touch again. Do you want to say anything about that? Do you think Season of Mist will be your home for?
Sure, sure. We wanted to find a home. That's exactly what it is. We desperately wanted to find a home for the next 10 years of Cryptopsy. For the rest, as I'm aspiring to keep it there for the rest of our career. We tried to do that with Nuclear Blast and we didn't see eye to eye on certain things. So luckily, Flo had a great relationship with Michael from Seasons of Mist. And within a month of a phone call, we had a record contract in our hands. So that's why you're seeing all the re-releases of Ungentle Exhumation, Blasphemy Flesh, None So Vile, the self-titled, the tomes are all now available on Seasons of Mist's website for everyone to go and order now because being independent, we couldn't necessarily afford to print vinyl and store them and ship them, and we got lazy. So luckily with them, this relationship happened and it was amazing. The whole team is fantastic. Michael, I mentioned, Gordon in the States, the PR team, Will in the States, Sebastian in Europe, fantastic social media crew, Anna just crushing it. I've never felt so taken care of. And that's something that I say with lots of love. And we are extremely happy. And I am very happy that we delivered a high quality record to them because they've been just taking great care of us.
Tell people about your podcast. Tell them about Vox and Hops.
Yeah, Vox and Hops is a in-depth interview podcast that I started in 2018. I started the podcast because that same summer, right before I put the podcast together, Chris's studio is always doing well. He's producing bands all the time and he's busy. Ollie joined cattle decapitation, which he has now left to focus on cryptopsy. But back then he was like in cattle, and Flo came to me and he was like, "Hey, we found a singer for my new project with Rune. It's David Vincent from Morbid Angel." And I was like, "Oh my God." I was like, "I'm gonna be jealous." I didn't want to be jealous of my boys, but I knew that I would be, and I would have nothing. So I needed to find something for myself. So I started a podcast where I hang out with fellow metal musicians, talk all about their lives and music, and we drink craft beer because craft beer is a big part of my life. And I released 500 episodes since October 2018. And the 500th episode came out last week. It was with Danny Filth of Cradle of Filth. And that is the last Vox and Hops episode because I need to focus on cryptopsy. I feel like 500 is enough for now. It'll come back eventually, but 500 is enough for right now. I'm too busy. Touring is just, I'm on tour 3, 4 months a year. I found myself, it's been about a year that I'm feeling that it needs to take a break. So I hit a nice round number and it felt like a good opportunity to bow out.
Did you have a favorite interview?
Oh, I have a lot of favorite interviews. I think one of the best interviews I ever did was my 1 year anniversary party, and it was with Lord Worm, and he came out and he was just incredible. It was in a small little venue in Montreal called Turbo House, which is ran by wonderful people. And I had set up the chairs on stage facing each other so that we would be like profile. That makes sense, right? Sideways to the crowd.
Right, right.
When Lord Worm got up on stage, he turned his chair to the crowd, and I was like, "Oh, okay, this is going to be good." And it's a great interview. That was amazing. For the 2 year anniversary, I had all Cryptopsy vocalists in a roundtable discussion. So there was Mike DeSalvo, Dan, myself, and Martin Lacroix, who passed away sadly. And it was animated by Bradley Zorgdrager, who was doing Banger TV back in the day. Now he's a fantastic manager of a bunch of bands. And he like hosted the whole thing and asked a bunch of questions to us. It was amazing. But there's others too. There's so many. There's, George. I've had George from Cannibal Corpse on a few times. Danny was pretty good. My last interview was pretty fantastic too. He was very candid and open. There's a lot. There's a lot. If you're a fan of extreme music and vocals and beer, Vox and Hops is a podcast that people can check out because there is still 500 episodes for people to check out, even though there's no new ones coming.
And is there a dedicated website, or can people find it on YouTube and all the streaming platforms?
Yeah. No, you can go to voxandhops.com, VOXANDHOPS.com.
Very cool. So, Matt, once again, you've been very generous with your time, but is there anything else you want to say?
I just hope people appreciate An Insatiable Violence. I hope that there's something in there that connects to you. I hope that people dig into the lyrical concept a little bit and reevaluates their relationship with social media because it's only going to get worse. And if we can put a helm, sort of lock ourselves in with our relationship with it earlier on than later, I'm sure it will do us a lot of good.
Thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you, Adrian.